guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video. You have no idea. This is something that I've been working towards for literally my entire life, and while I'm definitely not a pro by any means, I feel like I'm finally at a place in my life where I'm able to talk a little bit about my personal story and maybe help a few of you who are on a similar journey. Today we're going to be talking about intuitive eating. And I just need to throw out a really quick disclaimer. I am not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor. Everything that I'm going to be telling you and sharing with you is from my personal experience and shouldn't be followed as a blueprint for yours. If you are someone who is considering adopting an intuitive eating style, I really strongly suggest that you consult with a doctor or a nutritionist for yourself to find out if that's the right thing for you. So now that we got that out of the way, without further ado, let's get on with the video. So what is intuitive eating? There's actually 10 core principles to intuitive eating that if you're interested, you can check out at intuitiveeating.org. But basically, to boil it down, it is an undiet. You trust your body's natural hunger cues and cravings to determine what and when to eat. There's no rules, there's no limitations, there's no tracking of any kind. You just eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, and basically honor your hunger and your cravings. For a lot of people, this sounds super intimidating and kind of scary. I mean, if you go on Instagram and you find yourself on like fitness guru Instagram and take a few scrolls, you see pretty much everyone preaching the exact opposite message. It always seems like these online fitness influencers or like online personal trainers are idolizing the idea of like perfect health and fitness that like can't be achieved without closely monitoring everything you consume. And it kind of makes a lot of us feel like we are striving for but failing to attain this like perfect level of fitness. I am definitely all too familiar with this feeling because that literally was me. I'm someone who has suffered with binge eating disorder for literally my entire life, like being diagnosed in middle school. I found the Fitstagram influencers when I was at my lowest point, and I did what a lot of people do. I soaked in everything that they said like a sponge, and I basically restricted the hell out of myself. I might have lost a lot of weight, but nothing that I learned from these bro science personal trainers taught me how to achieve lifelong health. So of course I ended up failing in the eyes of like diet culture and gaining it all back. That experience is exactly why I went searching for something better. I learned that if you are working with a coach or a trainer and they only teach you how to diet, but they never teach you how to transition out of a calorie deficit or what a long-term healthy lifestyle even looks like, they're a bad coach. And basically after dealing with this for years, I was done and I was searching for something way better. I was so fed up with going through these constant cycles of tracking everything that I eat or like wanting to be really focused on making sure I'm hitting my macros or blah blah blah, to then losing track and falling off and feeling like a failure, and then that cycle just repeating over and over. I decided to hire a nutritionist she was actually super cool. She was licensed to work with people who were recovering from eating disorders, and she was super mental health focused and a huge advocate for health at every size. She taught me literally everything I know, and I wouldn't have the relationship I have with food today if it wasn't for her. However, I definitely recognize that it's a privilege to have the financial stability to be able to afford hiring help of any kind, whether it's a therapist or a nutritionist or whatever, which is why I thought that it would be really important for me to make this video, because there are some of you watching who might not have the means to hire a nutritionist. And while I'm definitely not licensed or necessarily qualified, I really do think that I learned a lot from my experience, and I think that even just telling my story might help one of you who can't afford it, at least get yourself like on the starting track, if that makes sense. I basically narrowed down my experience to 4 basic steps and 4 stages. The steps being how I transitioned from dieting to intuitive eating, and the stages being my emotional state during those steps. Like I said before, there are 10 core elements to like the true intuitive eating lifestyle, which you probably should check out on literally the website for intuitive eating. But these 4 things are like interpretations of the core principles that mattered to me the most. First and foremost, I think it's really, really important to define exactly what intuitive eating means, the underlying meaning, and why you think you're not capable of doing it. It basically all boils down to trust. If you're like me, you've spent basically your entire life communicating to yourself that you don't trust your body. You can't be trusted around food. You can't be trusted with portion control. You can't be trusted to determine if you're actually hungry or actually full. You structure your consumption as a way to child-proof your eating habits. And I think that's what makes intuitive eating so scary. It's as if your innate hunger cues are a battered dog locked in a cage, and the person who harmed them, aka you, is opening the door and telling them to come out. There's absolutely no trust between the two of you. Intuitive eating is all about rebuilding the trust and communication between yourself and your body, because it is a valid relationship that I think is one of the most neglected throughout our entire lives. And it's really fucking hard. And that's why the very first step in the process is to create a support team around yourself. Letting your family and friends know that you're doing something that's important to you and that you're really gonna need their support is easily one of the most crucial steps in this process. Because some of the days are gonna be really hard and really ugly, and you shouldn't have to endure those by yourself. Also, like I said before, I know that not everyone can afford it, but if you can afford to budget in the money for a therapist or a nutritionist, that would also be a very valuable asset to your team of support. Step 2 would be to throw away all the rules that you have when it comes to food. This one might take a little bit of self-reflection, because there are some food rules that are so deeply ingrained into your subconscious, you don't even realize that they are rules that you follow every single day. Examples of this could be weighing out all of your food that you eat in a day. It could be having set meal times, avoiding certain foods, avoiding combining certain foods, like not having carbs or fats on the same plate at once, which I'm guilty of that one. Waiting certain time intervals between when you allow yourself to eat again. They all have to go, which is why investing in a therapist could be really beneficial to you, so you can help yourself to get to the root of why you have some of these food fears and rule associations. Step 3 is to start paying attention to the way your body feels after every single time you eat. After you eat a meal, ask yourself, am I full or am I still hungry? Notice how certain foods make your stomach feel. Start paying attention to your energy levels after you eat. How is your sleep quality? Are you pooping regularly? This is arguably the most important step, because this is where you start to reopen the communication between yourself and your body. For a lot of you, you may have been spending your entire life ignoring communication that your body was trying to tell you, like forcing yourself to stop eating when you're still hungry, waiting until certain specific times to allow yourself to eat again, maybe even adhering to a certain calorie deficit or macro count that left you feeling unsatisfied at the end of the day. All of this is so normalized in the framework of the health and fitness industry that we start considering things like headaches, being super lethargic all the time, not sleeping well, having really poor workouts, not having the endurance to finish our workouts, muscle weakness, or shitty sleep as something that's a problem with us individually. Like it's something that's our fault, and we just need to have the willpower to push through. So basically, we've been conditioned to think that all of these symptoms of needing more food and not fully satiating our bodies is basically just a lack of willpower, when really it's literally just our bodies begging us to listen. And lastly, step number 4 is to follow a very, very loose meal plan. For me, the transition from very, very heavily structured eating to no structure at all was super, super scary. So starting out with that very loose meal plan was really helpful in making that transition.
Hi, hello. Yes, just a quick message from the editor. For some reason, I couldn't think of a better word, and when I gave this little loose meal plan a name, I started calling it the skeleton meal plan or the skeletal meal plan. And watching the footage back, I realized that that was not the best choice of words because that could be a little triggering. I just want you to know that this meal plan has nothing to do with your body or weight loss or anything to do with skeletal. I was just trying to think of a word that describes that this meal plan is just a basic outline of a meal plan and nothing is filled in. But while I was editing, I realized that a much better thing to call it would be the fill-in-the-blank meal plan. So I'm going to do my best to edit out all the times that I called it the skeletal meal plan. But if any of them have to get left in there for context, just know that that's not what I meant, and it is the fill-in-the-blank meal plan. I'm really sorry. Okay, bye.
This is basically what it could look like and what it looked like for me. So you make a list of all of your favorite foods by category. So all your favorite protein sources, all your favorite fats, all your favorite carbs, fruits, vegetables, whatever, so on and so forth, right? And then you create basically what I call a meal plan. It's kind of funny, but it'll make sense in a second. This also relies on you knowing your habits a little bit. So knowing when you like to eat, how much you like to eat, and normally what time of day you like to eat specific foods. For me, I know I don't really like to eat vegetables in the morning. Sometimes I do, but it's not really my thing. So I know that I'm not going to eat vegetables in the morning. That's just how I function. But say you know about yourself that you like to eat 3 main meals and maybe 2 snacks a day. You would basically write yourself a mini meal plan. So for breakfast, you would write that you're gonna eat a protein, a fat, a carb, and a fruit. And then for snack time, maybe you have a carb and a fruit. And then for lunchtime, maybe you do a protein, a carb, and a veggie. And you do that for the whole day. The biggest thing is that you do not need to know how many calories are in everything. You don't write specific measurements. There's no rules and there's no set plan for when you're going to eat these meals. That's really important. There are no rules. It's just a very, very basic skeletal structure for you to follow. The main purpose of it is all about giving you options. It's about reclaiming the power and asserting trust that you can allow yourself to eat what you're craving in the moment. When you wake up in the morning and you realize that you're hungry for breakfast, you go to your list of favorites for each thing. So like we said, we wanted to eat a protein, a carb, a fat, and a fruit. I go to my list of favorites, and maybe today I have eggs and toast and some grapes and an avocado on the toast or something. And then maybe tomorrow I wake up and I don't really want eggs today, so for my protein source I'm gonna have Greek yogurt instead. Basically, it's all about giving yourself the power of choice. Over time, you begin to feel more and more comfortable fulfilling what you're craving in the moment. And as you get more and more comfortable, you can slowly start moving away from using the plan altogether. You know you're ready to stop using the plan when you have very clear, definable hunger cues and feelings of fullness. When you naturally start to eat portions that make you feel comfortably satisfied, there are no rules to your eating, and you have absolutely no guilt around food. That is intuitive eating. So now that we talked about the 4 steps, I want to talk about the 4 emotional stages that I experienced. I think it's important that I mention this because if you're someone that's on a similar journey to me, I don't want you to feel alone in what you're feeling, because I probably experienced exactly the same feelings that you are. At the very beginning, the first thing that I experienced the most intensely was the feeling of fear. I was terrified of gaining weight. I thought that if I was given the freedom that I would just continue to eat into oblivion and gain weight forever. This led to a state of kind of semi-restriction, or basically half-assing the process. There were some rules that I was willing to give up, but then there were others that I held on to for the feeling of comfort. But honestly, holding on to those few little rules that I had just prolonged the process and made it so much harder. And that led into the next stage of the process, which was the loosening of these rules. I started to realize that the rules that I was holding on to for my own comfort were becoming toxic to my healing. I realized that I would never truly heal from my disordered eating habits and the constant feeling of food focus and food guilt unless I 100% gave myself to the process. So slowly over time, I started to experiment with what it would feel like to intentionally break some of my rules. And guess what? The world didn't end. And from then, it kind of clicked. From there, I entered what I like to call the free-for-all stage. And I want to make something super, super clear. This stage is not a negative thing. This was so necessary for my healing. I entered a stage where basically I ate whatever I wanted, as much as I wanted, whenever I wanted, without any care at all.
Hi, me again. I just want to clarify that this free-for-all stage that I'm talking about and like just following true intuitive eating are different, because during the free-for-all stage, I was ignoring how these foods made my body feel. I was just eating whatever I was craving in the moment, and not really caring if I was literally in pain afterwards. So I guess that's what I mean by like this stage is not a negative thing. It just meant that truly whatever food that I had in the past called like a cheat meal or a no-no food, I allowed myself to eat those things without guilt or fear of repercussions, and that's the difference.
This was the first time in my entire life that I felt truly free. It was amazing too, because I truly felt no guilt. I was so empowered. I felt super in control, and for the first time in my life, I felt satisfied. It's almost like every single craving that I had ever had in the last 15 years and had denied myself of was finally being fulfilled. And did I gain weight? Absolutely. This period probably went on for a good 2 months, and of course I gained weight. But did the world end? No. Was I surrounded by people that love me for exactly who I am? Did my value as a person change? No. And if anything, my world opened up for the first time in my life. This free-for-all stage allowed me to start having confidence in my choices. My body would ask for things, and I said yes without question. The trust between my body and I were finally being rebuilt. After I satisfied all of my cravings, I noticed a huge shift in my hunger levels and the amount of times I craved things. I was getting full faster from the same portion of meals that I had eaten previously. And I remember I told my nutritionist that I was excited because I heard my stomach growl for the first time in years. I call this the final stage. It's when you finally achieve full trust in your body. Your appetite stabilizes, you're super aware of the way that everything you eat makes you feel, and that starts to help you dictate what your cravings are. Your hunger cues return, and you start to feel satisfied at the end of every single day. So that's my story. Those are the steps that I took. Those are the stages that I went through. And I'm finally at the final stage, and I'm so fucking happy. I just want you to keep in mind that there's no timeline to all of this. This isn't the kind of thing that you can create a time-sensitive goal around. I've literally been working at this level of freedom for years, and I'm only now achieving any level of success because 6 months ago I decided to finally give 100% to this thing. So please be kind to yourself and your personal timeline, and just remember that health is a lifelong marathon and not a sprint. I just want to thank you so much for supporting me by watching till this point of the video. If you are, it truly means so much to me. If you have any questions about intuitive eating or you have something to add to the conversation, feel free to leave a comment down below or shoot me a DM on Instagram. This is obviously something I'm super passionate about and super excited about, so I would love to hear what you guys think. And I guess that's gonna do it. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!